Hi, welcome to Breastfeeding with Sarah. I'm Sarah, your lactation consultant. In this video, we'll learn the steps to take if your baby isn't latching or is latching but not getting enough milk with breastfeeding and you need to be pumping and supplementing. Now, I find that most parents don't have all the information to know exactly how much milk a baby needs to get enough to eat because their stomach sizes are growing and changing each day and each week. And most parents don't have all the information of how to bring in a full milk supply with a good pumping plan. So what we'll do is provide all that information in this video, and I'll give you handouts that you can use that guide you through the process. We'll also learn how to feed the milk back to the baby until baby is able to transition back to feeding directly at the breast. We'll learn by watching videos and seeing pictures of families from the Breastfeeding with Sarah community who are also pumping and supplementing. Come join us. Pumping and supplementing. Some of the main reasons you may need to would be if your baby's not latching, or if you and your baby are separated from each other, or if the latch is so painful or there's nipple damage, you need to take a break and have nipple rest, or if the baby's not getting enough to eat with breastfeeding or has excessive weight loss, or if you have low milk supply. If any of these situations apply to you, you should be seeing a lactation consultant to help resolve the underlying challenges, and also take your baby to get regular weight checks with the medical provider. Now remember, with any pumping or supplementing plan, it always needs to be temporary as measures to just make sure your baby's getting enough to eat and you're bringing in a full milk supply while you're fixing the underlying issues. If you need to be pumping and supplementing, start with baby's feedings. Feeding your baby is the highest priority. Babies should be fed at least every 3 hours around the clock. If baby is latching, you should be generally feeding them at the breast first at each feeding. Keep the breastfeeding sessions generally limited to 10 minutes on each side. That's 20 minutes total. If you have to pump and supplement after, as the whole feeding and pumping routine should take no longer than 40 minutes total to complete. If baby will not latch, or if it has been determined that your baby is not getting enough with breastfeeding alone, you should be working closely with the medical and lactation professional to guide you on a specific supplementation plan to meet your baby's needs. If baby is latching and breastfeeding first, this should involve doing weighted feeds on a highly accurate scale. Pre-feed and post-feed weights can measure how much milk the baby is transferring when breastfeeding if it's on a scale that can measure to the nearest 2 grams. This can determine how much milk the baby is getting at the breast and how much additional milk is needed for your care plan. Here are the general guidelines for supplementing. Research shows us how big infant stomach sizes are to help inform us of how much milk they need at each feeding. This chart shows the feeding amounts based on the infant's age. Follow the chart to know how much baby needs based on their age. You can access a free PDF copy of this following the link below. Here's how to feed the supplemental milk to the baby. There are various options of how to feed the milk to your baby, and they all have their advantages and disadvantages. I'll be making a separate video going into all the details and instructions on how to use all of these, including the best methods for how to do each one to be most effective for supporting baby's transition back to feedings at the breast. I'll give a brief summary of the options here. If the baby is latching well, then ideally baby can be supplemented directly at the breast. This helps avoid nipple confusion and allows baby to spend more time at the breast, which can also help increase your milk supply. This can be done with a supplemental nursing system, also known as an SNS, or a lactate system, or with a feeding tube connected to a large syringe. Finger feeding. This is done with an infant feeding tube connected to a large syringe and taped to the parent's finger. With proper use, this can allow parents to have more control over how the baby sucks and supports baby in controlling the flow of the milk, which avoids flow confusion for baby. Bottle feeding. This is the most user-friendly and time-effective for parents because of the ease of setup and use. And if you go this route, be sure to watch my video I'll be making on how to properly bottle feed baby using paced bottle feeding method. Spoon feeding, cup feeding, or dropper feeding. These are the simple and ideal ways to get colostrum into baby in the first few days after the birth if baby is not latching. The equipment is easy to find and easy to use, especially with the small volumes of colostrum. Let's talk about what milk to feed your baby if you are not making enough breast milk to make the full amount for the supplemental feedings. There is a hierarchy of supplements. According to the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine, mother's own expressed breast milk is the preferred supplement for baby. If there isn't enough of that, then the next on the list is donor breast milk, and third is formula. So if you're doing a combination of these supplements to get the full amount, be sure to feed baby all the breast milk first and then add formula to make up the remaining balance of what baby needs for their full feeding. For example, if your baby needs to have 2 ounces of a supplemental feeding and you're pumping out 1 ounce, feed baby that 1 ounce, and then after that, feed baby an additional 1 ounce of formula to make the full supplemental amount for that feeding. But just make sure you're not mixing them, because if baby does refuse to finish a feeding, we don't want baby to waste any breast milk. We want baby to only be wasting the formula. Here's the guidelines for pumping and building or maintaining your milk supply. To bring in and maintain a full milk supply, your breasts will need to be drained at least 8 times per 24 hours. That falls into the range of pumping every 3 hours around the clock. If baby isn't latching or isn't latching effectively enough to drain your breasts well, you'll need to be pumping or hand expressing the milk after breastfeeding to keep up your milk supply. Always pump your breasts after baby breastfeeds. Pump both breasts at the same time for 15 minutes, ideally with a double electric pump. Hospital-grade performing pumps are the gold standard for pumping to bring in your milk during the first 6 weeks after the birth. Hand expression is ideal for the colostrum phase, which is the first 2 days after the birth, or if you do not have access to a breast pump. Here's a useful worksheet to keep track of all the feedings and pumpings and baby's diaper output. 1 sheet is for each day. These sheets are a good way to keep records of baby's feedings and also to see where your milk supply is trending if you are pumping. You can access free PDF copies of this to print out at the link below. This breastfeeding care plan shows the steps to take to bring in a full milk supply and use supplemental feedings to help baby get enough to eat to gain enough weight. You can access a free PDF copy of this following the link below. This care plan is sometimes called a triple feeding routine because it focuses on the 3 steps of a breastfeeding care plan, which is breastfeeding first, then pumping, then feeding the pumped or supplemental milk back to the baby. These guidelines I'm giving in this video and this care plan should all be temporary measures, as the goal is to keep up baby's weight and keep up your milk supply until you can be effectively breastfeeding directly to feed your baby, and the goal is for that to happen as soon as possible. How do you know if baby is getting enough? They should be weighed regularly and should be meeting weight gain guidelines when they are getting enough to eat. Follow the chart on how much weight your baby needs to be gaining based on their age. You can access a free PDF copy of this chart following the link below. If baby is severely underweight, they will need a medically tailored plan for catch-up growth. So in that case, see your medical provider for a more individualized plan. The plan is always to work toward the goal of getting baby back to the breast for their full feedings after you resolve the underlying issues that were causing the challenge in the first place. It'll take frequent visits with a medical and lactation professional to give you support to tailor your breastfeeding care plan to keep baby gaining weight well and supporting your milk supply, and also to know you're on the right track with resolving the underlying issues. And finally, to know when and how to wean from the pumping and supplementing plan. See the links below on how to find a lactation consultant in your area for in-person support. Now, it's important to note that following a pumping and supplementing plan is very hard work and ideally should be guided by a skilled lactation professional so it can be as effective as possible and won't have to last any longer than necessary. See the video I made called Why We Choose to Breastfeed to hear from the Breastfeeding with Sarah community why we work so hard to establish breastfeeding. Also watch the videos I'll be making on strategies to survive a pumping routine, how partners can support breastfeeding, and building a postpartum support network so you can get more access to support. Please like this video and subscribe to become a part of the Breastfeeding with Sarah community. Please also consider supporting this channel on Patreon so we can continue to provide free access to support to everyone who needs it. Remember, all of the handouts and references I used in this video can be accessed for free on the Patreon page. You can download them, print them, and also share them with whoever needs it for free. Thanks for watching.